It's just heartbreaking to hear how children suffer like that in orphanages. You've got your own children at home that, have a lovely life, and then to realise that they are being abused, neglected, and all they want is to go home with another family, and that's their dearest wish, and how much abuse that they suffered, it is just incredible. You can't imagine the suffering. I'm so really happy to hear Rikaya's speech tonight to make us all realise how lucky we are and how lucky our children are. My goodness, it was just heartbreaking but inspiring as well. It inspires us all to go on and do something about it.
Well, it was truly inspirational. It just makes you sit down and think, wow, is that kind of stuff really going on? And it makes you realise how lucky we all are. And it really makes you like to just take a step back and think, how difficult these people in these positions are put in. And it was great to just listen to that sort of thing straight from someone who's experienced it, really.
Yeah, Rikaya's speech was superb. As a business, we've supported this charity for a long time, Hope and Homes, and she was incredibly personal, obviously, emotional for all of us, real, and it just illustrates what an incredible charity this is. And that's why, as a business, we support Hope and Homes and have done for a long time. It's incredibly privileged to be here, frankly. So yeah, it was superb.
Well, I had a tear, which was quite hard, because I've heard her talk before and I've met her before, but I just think it's so heartfelt and so real that you can't help it. And I think that's what we all need, is we're out a gorgeous, glamorous night and a bit of a reality check. And she does a super job, or she did tonight. Really, really heartfelt. I haven't grown up in a world like that, but I felt it in my heart, and I felt for my children. Priceless.
Oh, beautiful. Heartbreaking what she talked about, and her experiences were enormous. And it kind of brings a sense of reality to what we live in today. And I'm just so happy to be here and to contribute, and we'll continue.
Honestly, do you know what an amazing lady. I mean, she really was. I mean, it was such an emotional speech, and what a heartbreaking story. And I just was blown away by the whole thing. And I've got to say that everybody on the table, there wasn't a dry eye. She really was fantastic, and I think she inspired us all.
I think it's really touching. I think what's striking is that lots of people have families and they're not necessarily happy families, but I think obviously it makes sense to try and get people into foster care rather than an institutional home, so really supportive of that. And I frankly wouldn't have known about that dilemma before this evening, so it's been a really beneficial, educational evening.
Well, I, for one, thought it was amazing. I thought it was inspirational and very educational. I didn't understand all of the dynamics around what was going on, and so I found it quite compelling and just very inspirational.
What an amazing woman to have gone what she's gone through, and to come out the other side and be so eloquent and heartfelt, and to deliver that message to people that can feel and understand the journey that she's gone through and where she ended up. It's truly amazing.
Do you know what? It was incredible to see somebody that's come from the most horrific, you can't begin to understand it, so it's difficult to begin to put it into words for what she's come from, but to see somebody like her who's had the most awful upbringing to have prevailed, I guess, to have, against all odds, against everything, who has stood in front of us today with an incredible eloquence, incredible confidence, totally self-assured, to be able to relive the traumas that she went through, to share that horrificness with all of us.
And to make change, to hope to make change.
Well, to hope, exactly, to bring that forward is, incredible. Do you know what? It's just amazing.
Do you know, and actually, So for my profession, as a psychologist, the first 4 years of her life were obviously paramount, in a way that there was some security some children don't have at all. So she started and she doesn't know where she began because we don't have her memory system at 4. So it's horrific in every way, but she has some sort of understanding of how awful it is. So she was able to come out of it. If you're 6 months going into that place, you don't even do what she did. You don't come out of it. So there's some understanding of where she belongs and where she came from. And to be able to articulate it and to be able to share it, share the enormity and the sadness, and to go back and relive the trauma, relive the triggers, and to stay in some way centered whilst reliving it so she can share it. Incredible. So we were all crying, the tears she was able to hold in, that's what triggered everybody in that room just then.
The word emotional is not enough. Obviously, speaking from the heart is an incredibly powerful kind of thing. When you actually look at that person and what she actually done in her life, she doesn't even know her own birthday, how old she is, or whatever. And she goes back to that orphanage and looking back at a life she's actually achieved to start with, to finish with, and looking at where she actually came from is immensely powerful. The story she tells about the kind of child which was actually scolded and died 2 days later and then went to heaven is immensely incredible. Now, you can read about that and it goes, let's be honest, in one ear and out the other. Somebody says that, she was there. Isn't that powerful? Massively. Next question.
I thought it was amazing. I mean, there have been a few really good speeches, but to hear her speak from the heart, coming from such a long way, leaving her family, her 3 children, to come and speak, I thought that was incredibly brave. I don't know how I would speak in that, in that capacity to so many people. And then, of course, as a woman, you've got to look at her and think, she looks great. What a fab dress, fab hair, everything. So, I think she's amazing, absolutely amazing. Good on her.
I think it really brought home to us what this evening's about. It really emphasised what can be achieved, this charity's achieved, and how someone like her can just come from nothing to make such a difference of her own life, and that shows what this charity is about to me. It really just brings it just makes everything come to life.
Oh, it was just so compelling, and she's the most amazing lady to have lived as a child and then grown up as an adolescent in an orphanage. And now here she is, and I just can't say enough about the whole thing. It's just quite wonderful.
When I heard Rakaya speaking today, it was incredibly emotional. Her story was incredibly impactful. To hear that about the traumas, physical, emotional, mental, that she went through was astounding, and a world away from what myself and my family can possibly imagine, can possibly relate to. It really brought home the work that Hope and Homes do and the impact that they can really make with a small amount of money to children's lives.
Yeah, well, I found it incredibly inspiring. I sat next to her during dinner, and she started telling me about what happened to her, but during the speech it became very apparent. It was incredibly inspiring. The fact that she was prepared to go back to somewhere that caused her so much pain as a child really did pull at my heartstrings, and I think the rest of the room felt the same, to be frank.
Rakaya is one of the most inspiring ladies I've ever met, and I am so happy to know that she's on board with Hope and Homes for Children, and eventually we will get to the end of closing orphanages down and eradicating the end of orphanages. And her speech tonight was inspiring to the whole of the audience in the room.
The speech was absolutely sensational. The entire audience was in absolute silence. I was in tears, and I think it's really inspiring that you went back to that place and the strength that you had in enduring that, essentially what is torture for 10 years. It was incredibly moving, and I'm really pleased about the donations that will have no doubt have been inspired by that tonight. I think it was an absolute dream.